What's up, everybody?
What was that?
I,
I like it though.
Thank you. Well, before we get into our show, Man of the Michigan Hat, you have a big announcement for everybody,
Yeah.
which is
That's a very good question.
you're becoming a Chicago fan, right?
I honestly, yeah, that might be. I
Would
probably
you
might
rather
probably be
die?
good for my mental health. Yeah.
Okay.
I am moving to. I don't know.
Are
So
you taking your talents to South Beach?
right, yeah, yeah. We'll get to a related topic here in a second, but yeah, packing my bags and moving. So no, I don't know.
So you told me you had a big announcement.
That I did tell you that. Is that how that happened?
Yeah, you did.
Oh man.
Come on, man. Yeah. Improv. Let's go.
I've never been good at improv. I'll get back with you on that. Yeah, I'm not ready to.
All right. It. Well, he'll have a big announcement by the end of the show. Okay. All right. Well, welcome to Dad Bod Central, presented by Shoot Your Shot Sports. We're the boys from Frustration Nation. Go check us out every Tuesday and Thursday, everywhere you can get podcasts. Our Twitter is at Real Elephant Podcast. Our personal Twitters are at KEGeorge94 and at Michigan Hat. Our email is frustrationnation@shootyourshotsports.com. And today's episode is brought to you by Thrive Fantasy. As a father, you know that there's many risks that we take in life. So, for example, a risk that we might take is, can I trust my son to pick up the correct wrench when I send them to my toolbox? Because now I don't have any sons, but I can speak from being a son that I brought back the wrong tool many times. Sometimes even bringing back a wrench and my dad's like, no, those are pliers.
The look of disappointment in your dad's eyes as you hand him a screwdriver.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, it's really stupid when they're like, oh, bring me a 14 millimeter. Hold up. First of all, isn't that a metric measurement? Like, yep. I don't know what a millimeter is or even how big that is. Like, come on,
I'm
Dad.
10.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Second of all, like, a 14 millimeter what? Like, be more specific. Anyway. Another place you can take important risks is in fantasy sports. So Thrive Fantasy is awesome because they have player props and you design a fantasy team based on the over-unders that you want, and the more risky it is, the more points they're worth. And then just like in fantasy sports, like fantasy football, your lineup would face off against all these other lineups, and the higher scores win portions of the prize pool. So for example, it's all built on props and over-unders. So, for example, you could take the over on Children Fathered by Philip Rivers or the under on Fathers Present in the Kardashian and Jenner family. The more points a selection is worth, the riskier it is, which I already said, so that is redundant. What I'd like you guys to do now, though, is to go and sign up through their app, which you can get on the App Store, Google Play Store, their website, www.thrivefantasy.com. And when you're signing up, use our promo code FNFantasy, and you can get up to $50 matched after your first deposit of $20 or more. So be sure you do that at sign up, FNFantasy, and sign up and prop up today. I am Furious George, and I'm here with the man in the Michigan hat who has no big announcements, apparently. What a liar. But you can just call us Daddy. So come on, liar. Let's go.
All right.
Changing the script. Anyway. All right.
Improv.
That's right. All right. So we're going to start, as always, with Adventures in Fatherhood. And I wrote in my notes here, for myself, being a boomer and being mad at those darn kids at the park.
This will be good.
Yeah. So this is actually, there's a park not far from our house that we usually just walk to. And actually we've only ever walked to it. And this was probably like back in August. I was there with Everly, and there was this group of kids that were there. There were 2 girls and 3 boys. And the 2 girls are probably in like 5th grade. And then the boys looked like they're probably like in, I'm going to guess 3rd grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade. or they're really small, like fourth or fifth graders. I don't know, something like that though. So again, girls are in like fifth grade. These boys are in like third or fourth, I guess, and they're playing. They're playing the monkey wood chips game.
What? No.
Okay,
I'm not familiar with monkey wood chips.
Or it's just called wood chips usually.
Okay.
So it's like Marco Polo on the playground, except every now and then you'll call out wood chips, and if you say wood chips and somebody is on the wood chips, then they are it.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, they're playing this game, and the one girl was playing over on the fireman's pole on the playground, and the other girl, again a like fifth grader, is whatever the girl's name was like, you could totally be a pole dancer. And as a dad who has a 3-year-old who like doesn't obviously know what that is, but could repeat the words.
Yep.
I was like not happy. I was pretty upset about it, and immediately was like, all right, Evie, let's go over to this section of the park. And so anyway, I was reminded of this because the other day we were at the park and those same people were there, and this same girl was being like extremely bossy and like you guys need to share with me and sharing and blah blah blah, all this stuff. And so basically this girl's parent, if you're listening, I'm calling you out right now.
She's definitely listening.
Yeah, I don't know if she's listening, but her parent, whether it's her mom or her dad, you need to slap this girl. Okay. What's up, Big Daddy Drew? Thanks for tuning in.
What up, man?
Happy to have you on. So that's why I'm kind of like a boomer, because I feel like before kids, I would have heard that and been like, ha, that's kind of funny. But now with having a kid who understands words, I'm like, watch your mouth around my daughter.
Have some respect.
Yeah.
It's funny. Yeah. So
about you.
My adventure is, so I guess when I think of the word adventure, I think of like a quest or something you're trying to accomplish, right? So depending on how you define it, an adventure or a quest for us right now is trying to find something that Lila, my youngest daughter, will not eat. Because so far, there has never been a food she doesn't eat. So, I mean, you guys were just over at our house recently and you saw like, she's just a big kid. She's she always has been. And it's funny because my oldest, my son, he wasn't super picky, but there was just like a lot of stuff he likes, a lot of stuff he doesn't, like what I thought was normal, but she has eaten anything and everything. There has never been a single food she wouldn't eat. So it's just been, as time goes on, she tries more and more things. It's become more and more funny to me that there's nothing she won't eat.
It's really funny because Hazel has actually been very similar. And, for our viewers, Hazel is my daughter who's just 2 weeks older than Lila. Mm-hmm. And Hazel will just, she just always is, she will not stop eating until you take her tray away from her. Like, which is hilarious because for your daughter being, like you said, a big kid, ours is like a super scrawny little thing. Like I've joked before, like if we put Hazel next to most kids her age, we would look like we're abusing her by like not feeding her because she's so tiny.
Yeah.
Man, so hey, hi Mom, I see you're watching. Thank you for tuning in. I know you're proud of me. So all right. So Lila, does she have a favorite food?
I mean, it's hard to tell at this point because she eats everything just as enthusiastically. Okay. So yeah, I don't know.
My favorite thing that I saw from Lila when I was at your house was she was in the playpen, and the next thing I know, I look over, and not is she just asleep, but she's asleep, and her face is like pressed up against the side, like the netting side of the playpen. Just like totally out.
Yep.
That's amazing to me because Hazel is super light sleeper and she's just where they're yelling about the Bears and the Lions, and she's just face smushed up against the playpen. Oh man.
Yep. Yeah, she's funny.
That had Aaron and I laughing. All right. Well, this week we don't have any sports dad shout outs, so we thought we would try something new.
Yeah.
Especially since tonight hopefully you're choosing to check in to this show instead of the vice presidential debate, because this show we talk about much more important topics. So we don't want you to miss the theme of the debate, though, if you choose to tune in here instead. So we are still going to have a debate, and tonight's debate is going to be about LeBron James and if he is a bum. No, I'm just kidding. It's going to be about what are our thoughts on LeBron James walking off the court at the very end of the Lakers Heat game 3, which the Heat won.
Yeah.
So, do you want to start with presenting your case for or against?
Why don't you start? Because I think your view, the case I'm going to defend is maybe the less. I don't know. Why don't you start? Because I want to see what your thoughts are. Because I'm going to kind of, depending on how strongly you feel on your side, will kind of affect where I go with this, I think.
All right. Well, to start politically, I believe. No, I'm just kidding. So I don't really hold issue specifically with LeBron doing it necessarily. Like, whatever. I guess it doesn't matter. But to me, where it matters most is in the discussion of the greatest of all time. When you talk about the GOAT, I feel like stuff like that and complaining about free throws earlier in the playoffs, things like that is where you lose some cred in the GOAT conversation. Now, the one thing I'll say that maybe is a little giving you points for your side is we didn't have social media and technology miking players up like we did when Jordan played. Maybe Jordan did all of these things the exact same way, but from everything we've seen in The Last Dance and everything I've seen on highlights of Michael Jordan, I never saw somebody that was ever done with the game, even if they were blowing a team out, until the final second went off the clock. And I don't know if that comes down to competitive spirit or what, because I don't think LeBron James is not competitive. He's very clearly competitive. He wouldn't be a superstar if he wasn't competitive. But my gut reaction to all this is I don't really personally care. I'm not a boomer in the way where I'm like, have some respect for the NBA and your teammates or the other team. For me, it's a bad example of leadership for your team. If you want to be considered the GOAT, you need to have leadership. It's also a show of, it can be interpreted as a show of being a bad sport. And that also has no place in the GOAT conversation, in my opinion. So to me, again, where I hold the most issue with it is in the GOAT conversation.
Okay. Yeah. So that's kind of where I wanted to see like what your thoughts were on what this knock against him could be. So I'll kind of frame it the same way as far as why I think these, and again, some of this is devil's advocate, like just to hold the other side of this. So not that I strongly feel all of these things, but I'll kind of make the case for why I think that this actually shows some attributes of what puts him in the GOAT conversation, or some of his characteristics that make the conversation at least interesting when you compare him with LeBron or with Jordan or Kobe or whoever you have there. So if when you look at why this happened, other than just there's definitely those who are going to say he was just pouting, he was upset, he was just angry. Like there's been the whole crybaby LeBron thing for a long time, right?
Yeah.
To look at it from the other side, you could make the argument that what this actually shows is firstly a drive to win. Like that was what was something with, and maybe they showed it in different ways, but Jordan had a huge drive to win. It was what was most important to him. It's all he cared about is winning championships and winning games. So maybe he's showing it differently, but this shows that this game really mattered to him, and it really upset him that they lost this game, and that he has a passion to win this championship. So maybe he shows it differently. Maybe there's some personality differences, but there's that same drive, which, as you said, like, it's clear they're both competitors. The other thing, I think, when you talk about leadership, you can look at it the other way, where, yeah, maybe it's you can make the argument he was being a poor leader there, because maybe some of his because some of his teammates, that's all I say now, because some of his teammates seemed like they almost didn't know he was going to do that. Maybe it's easy to look at that and say, like, that's a moment where his leadership failed. But I think you could also make the argument that as a leader, maybe he's making a statement by doing this, saying something like, team, this wasn't good enough, and it's time to already move on to the next game. Like, we're over this game. What we just did was pathetic, and it's time to start thinking about the next game already. So again, we don't know exactly what's going through his mind or what he was thinking, but just as devil's advocate, I guess I'm just trying to make the case that by walking off, it's not necessarily a personal I'm upset thing. It could be we're better than this. We're going to do better. It's on to game 3.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, when Hitler killed himself, it was clearly to motivate the Nazi army to come back even stronger for the next war.
Right. We'll never know what it was. Yeah.
I can see your point about. I guess what I'm saying is, I know you can say leadership can be shown in different ways, but I make the joke about Hitler kind of as my point. Like, I basically am saying I think it's kind of a cowardly way to show leadership. And even if that is how he chooses to show leadership, I guess that's fine. But I don't want him higher than number 2 on the list then. Because I just feel like stuff like that, I guess, going back to the question we have at the bottom, is it childish? Yeah, it kind of is. And to me, LeBron, if this was the first thing he ever had done like that, then yeah, I guess I don't really care that much. Hi, Mrs. Westwood. Thank you for watching. But to me, where I can't stand it is when you add up a lot of things like this that he's done throughout his career, that's where I start to hold more issue with it, because it's almost like it's compounded to this point. And I feel like it feels more emphasized, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and he's definitely a polarizing person, and he's easy to hate. But I don't know. I guess, like, I can kind of look at it as, like, the fact that you're as polarizing as you are and are such a face for the sport, to where your every action's critiqued to the level it is. Again, you can kind of make the argument that when you talk about greatest of all time, does that mean best role model of all time? If so, then yeah, that you have a good argument as far as, like, what is that model for fans? Like, what kind of image are you portraying? But when you talk, it kind of depends on how you define greatest, which is,
I mean, role model, I'm not really even considering role model, because role model to me, like, we're talking more like off the court stuff. And if you get into role model off the court stuff, Jordan was not a great role model off the court during his career. And LeBron is a phenomenal role model, with opening his school, being up for, like, social justice things. So like, I'm not even taking that into consideration.
I guess I mean more about, like, sportsmanship, like a role model for that.
Yeah. To me, it's part of the game. It's part of your play. And even if you want to say, well, technically it was off the court, fine, it was off the court because he walked off, but there were still 8 seconds left in the game when he walked off. So he gave up on a game. It wasn't like, I brought this up on our podcast, it wasn't like they were being blown out. It wasn't like they were down by like 20 points. Weren't they down by like 7?
Yeah, it was less than 10, I believe. Yeah.
Like, I know. Yeah, maybe you feel like, okay, this wasn't our night. Jimmy Butler had a triple-double, whatever. I don't know. To me, crazy stuff has happened, like Tracy McGrady scoring 13 points in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
right? Like, there's no reason why you should, and really 7 points, if that's what they were down by, that's technically, it could be 2 baskets. If you get a 3 with a foul with an and 1, that's 4 points, and then you get another 3, that's 7. You could tie the game. And 8 seconds, if everything were to fall right for you and the Heat missed some free throws, you could end up with those opportunities, is what I guess where my brain's at, and you just kind of give up on those. So
yeah.
So Richie commented and said, to me it just didn't seem loyal, switching so many teams to win championships. That to me is like a whole different topic.
That's an interesting debate too.
I wasn't really happy about that at first, but I've come around to the idea that that's just the way the modern NBA operates.
Yeah, especially we see Golden State has done that too, and you can almost argue
Tate?
Golden Tate. Yeah, you could almost argue that like adds something to your greatness to be able to go to 3 different teams and shape those conferences and the league, no matter which of those teams you played for. Like the fact that, I mean, I'm not going to take anything away from Jordan because he played for the Bulls throughout his whole dominance and won all his championships on the Bulls. Like, that's an admirable thing to do, but it does raise some questions. Like, it's kind of the Brady Belichick thing. Like, is Brady going to be good without the system, without the coach? And like, when you take him away from that, well, LeBron clearly is, which says something about, there's no question that it's LeBron who accomplished all these things. Like, I know he's had good players with him in several places that he's went, but he's been the one constant. Or you have somebody like Brady or Jordan, who I'm not going to take anything away from them, and I don't think that's a huge question when it comes to their legacy, but you could look at it that other way and say, how much of that is Belichick or Phil Jackson or Scottie Pippen?
LeBron has also lost the finals with every team he's played with, except for the Lakers at this point. Yeah.
And honestly, like, when you talk about the GOAT conversation, that's the one biggest thing, is that he's lost more than he's won.
By a lot.
Yeah, it's like 3 and 6 right now, right? Yeah.
Because this is 3 and 6, yeah.
Yeah.
Because if he wins this, because this is his 10th one.
In my mind, if you don't win this title, which it seems like they're definitely about to, if he didn't win this championship, then you can't have the conversation anymore as far as him being the GOAT. But once he wins this, I think the fact that he's still playing and will already have been in 10 and won 4, you can have the conversation at least. So I don't know.
What if he wins this one and then they make it next year and lose that one? And so then he's made the championship 11 times, but he's 4 and 7. What do you do there? Because you feel like this year would establish legitimacy with that argument, but then you losing it would,
you take a step back at that point again. But then the question is, like, is it taking a step back to say, like, oh, you made it to the championship but didn't
11
win it?
times?
That's still pretty good to be the second best team in the country. So I don't know. It depends how you look at a finals loss. Yeah. Like, is that a failure? It's obviously not as good as a finals win, but does it take something away from your legacy? Is it better to make the finals and lose, or to not make the finals? Obviously, you'd rather make the finals, so I don't know. Interesting.
It is interesting. You know what else is interesting is our Shoot Your Shot Sports Fantasy League.
It is. Okay, so what happened with you this week? Because I was just talking with Richie today because we just had our matchup. So afterwards, I'll say how that went. But
I need my computer to load, and I will gladly tell you. But what I can tell you for now, while I'm waiting for this, is that I played Danwow, and I think Danwow, he auto-picked, and I don't think he's really changed it up at all. Yep. So I beat him by like 110 points because he had Saquon Barkley and Cortland Sutton starting, who are like out for the season, and he had who else did he have? He had 2 Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yep.
That did not play last week due to the Titans COVID thing, which is a whole nother big topic to get to eventually.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
In fact, we're gonna break that down on our episode that comes out tomorrow of Frustration Nation, so definitely check that out. So yeah, I beat Danwow by a very close score of 152.5 to 48.5.
tight game there for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. So only a 104-point victory for me.
Yeah, luckily Saquon Barkley wasn't playing because he could have dropped at least 110 points. So.
And Calvin Ridley put up a big 0 for me, a big goose egg.
And you still very comfortably.
Yeah.
You should have rested your starters.
I should have, yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about your matchup.
So tough week. I mean, I had with the Steelers not playing, I had to move Juju and James Conner to the bench, which is tough when I've already got Michael Thomas on my IR. So yeah, it was tough. And then I ended up in the situation where all the Sunday games were done. You're just ready for Monday night. Davante Adams, who is in my bench, or not my bench, he's in my flex spot. I need 18 points. He's projected for like 25, and then he announces he's not playing. So at that point, if I try to switch him out for someone else, I need to drop somebody, but everybody else has already played and can't be dropped except for those 2 Steelers players I just mentioned. I could drop one of those 2, but I'm not going to drop one of them to pick up some free agent wide receiver or running back who might get me 18 points, but they might not. And then I risk losing one of those guys on waivers. So I decided, you know what? I'm just going to take the loss. 18. If I was down by like 3 points, then it's like, okay, automatic win basically by picking someone up. I'd think about it, but I couldn't justify. Like, it's a long season. It's about the season, not the game. So I was like, you know what? I'll just go to 2-2 and keep my roster intact. But tough call there. Davante Adams kind of screwed me, but that's fantasy football.
That's life. Yeah. Yeah. So I think this was the case last week, but yeah, I've still remained undefeated, which I'm very thankful for. And I feel pretty confident about that moving forward because I'm facing Illinois Silent S this week.
Wow, that's messed up.
Why is that messed up?
That you would just put him down like that, like easy win.
I'm doing it. Hey, sports and fantasy sports are meant for being upset, and so I'm trying to set up Jimbo for an upset while talking smack.
Has he won a game yet in this?
No. So you have an undefeated versus a winless. So Jimbo, I don't know if you're watching, but be ready. Here's my one piece of advice. Don't start Aaron Rodgers this week because he's on a bye week.
That's good advice. You usually have to pay for that kind of advice. That's a free one.
You can get more free advice actually about fantasy sports if you check out the Shoot Your Shot Sports Fantasy Hotline. That's on, I think, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. They release a few different videos, but it's with Richie and Jay Baller. So definitely check that out if you're a fantasy player and need help. All right. I'm in a group tweet message on Twitter, and somebody literally just put on there, I hate having to ask for help for fantasy.
Good timing.
Relevant, yes.
Well, if you do need to ask for help,
thank you, Dave, for that.
Yeah, for that layup.
Yeah. All right. So do you have any other comments on fantasy? Who are you facing this week?
Let me look. I think I'm facing
and do you have any Lions and Packers that you need to switch out other than Stafford and Davante Adams?
So I made those changes already. Let me look, because right now it's projected as a close game. So yeah, it's playing Big Drew, Big Daddy Drew. So right now estimated at my projected is 133. His is 131. So It looks like it's going to be a good game. I already I dropped Stafford. You can claim him off waivers if you want. He's been okay, but not amazing. So I picked up Ben Roethlisberger, and I did move Michael Thomas back into my roster. He's questionable, but kind of as a placeholder, hoping that he plays. The
big thing to watch for this week is will the Titans and Bills play?
Yeah.
Because if they don't, then that takes off players, including Josh Allen, who's been going off this year. Yeah. And then you also have to look at, will the Patriots play? I don't know who their matchup is with. but those are very real questions that you have to ask if you're a fantasy player, which obviously we are because we're discussing this. I'm going to look to see who the Patriots are playing.
Yeah, I'm looking right now too.
Patriots are playing Denver.
Yep.
They're in New England. Denver at New England. So we'll have to see. But cool. Yeah, for me, I have Calvin Ridley is listed as questionable, but I probably I need to read the report about him.
I feel like he's been listed questionable for a couple weeks now.
Yeah,
but
I don't really have. Well, I mean, the only thing I can do really is I can move Terry McLaurin up into that WR2 slot.
Yeah,
and then I could fill. I have T.Y. Hilton. I don't know. Terry McLaurin's listed as questionable too, so I need to read up on those guys. But I might end up going to the waiver wire for a wide receiver, so we'll have to see. But here's a little tease for tomorrow's Frustration Nation episode. I talked to James. Oh, what was his name? I talked to James from the Locked On Buccaneers podcast about the Bears matchup, and the Buccaneers have a running back not named Leonard Fournette or Shady McCoy that he highly recommended for fantasy because of the yards he's been putting up.
And isn't Fournette out at this point?
He's doubtful.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm not going to say who it is because you have to listen to the episode if you want to find out.
There you go. Good plug.
Yep, that's right. Deal with it. The best part is that I know who it is, so I can make that. You can pick him up right now. Yeah. Right. All right. Well, let's talk about other games going on. So Lakers, Heat. We talked about LeBron a little bit. Lakers are up 3-1. I don't really know if that surprised many people. I know. Man, Michigan Hat, you had the Lakers taking it in 5, right?
Yeah. I mean, at this point, to me, is there anybody who still thinks that the Heat are going to win this series? Like, I don't know. To me, this feels like it's just a matter of if it's next game or the game after that. So,
yeah. I still think the Heat could win the next game. But I don't. I'm not sold on that necessarily. The thing that's interesting and the thing that's going back to, I guess, LeBron's legacy as the GOAT or not, is there's a lot of reasons that people will say that this championship doesn't really help him in the GOAT conversation. One, because it's a weird season because of COVID. Two, because he's playing the Heat, not the Celtics or the Bucks or the Raptors, the teams people expected. MJ, thanks for watching.
I agree.
We respect all your opinions except ones that deal with the Packers. And the other reason is the Heat have been injured, with Bam being out for a few of the games. Dragic is still out. So I think, I'm not saying I hold that argument necessarily, but I'm saying the people that are like true blue diehard LeBron haters are people that will probably use that as their arguments for LeBron not being the GOAT, if that makes sense.
Yeah. My question would just be like, how much of this is recency bias, where it's like we remember all these championships that Jordan played and we remember all the players that were out. And so, okay, MJ, now I disagree with you.
You crossed the line.
So the question is just like, which I don't know the answer to this. Like, it'd just be interesting to look into when Jordan won championships, which they probably addressed some of this in Last Dance. Like, there definitely were times when other teams they played were injured, or a team played them in the championship who nobody expected to be in the championship. You know, like, I don't know that happened all the time. I'm sure he had to beat the best teams a lot in the postseason, but it's like, because LeBron's playing now, it's easy to hyper analyze every opponent, every injury, where with Jordan, we just look back and say, oh yeah, he won this year, and we don't even know who he beat or who wasn't there, you know?
Yeah. No, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly, I'm not the biggest LeBron fan, maybe as you guys have picked up, but I am not a LeBron hater. And
Yeah.
I do think that most likely that the Lakers will seal it up next game.
Yep.
So all right, well, let's talk about the MLB playoffs.
Yeah.
MJ, if you're still around, the Athletics and the Astros are playing, and the Athletics, they end up winning game 3. Last I
I saw
checked, they were
up
winning
9-7. Yeah, they won 9-7.
Okay, cool.
I
So
saw when I was watching it was 9-7, I think in the 8th.
I think me, along with most people, hopefully in America, are cheering for the Athletics to beat the Astros.
Yeah.
The thing that annoys me the most is the Astros have adopted this whole idea like, oh, hey, look, all the haters can eat it because we're going to do really well and win the World Series. It's like, we hate cheating. we don't hate we don't hate the Astros just to hate the Astros. Like, we hate the fact that you are cheaters. That would be good. I would like that matchup.
That's just good TV. Yeah.
MJ, since you're here in the comments watching, I want to hear what is your prediction for the rest of the series, since the Astros only have one game to win and the Athletics have a little bit more a little more work to do. What do you think will happen? So,
yep.
But while you're working on that, what do you think about that whole storyline the Astros are putting together?
I mean, I feel like it's the kind of thing you almost have to do if you're in that situation, because you need to. It's at a time when, like, it's a weird year. You need to come together as a team. Obviously, it's tough to bounce back from that controversy and that scandal. Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Do they have the offense though? I think they do. Right?
Yeah.
I would. But yeah, so you're saying it's a weird year.
Yeah, like, to me, as a team, that's the way you handle it, right? Like, as much as we don't like it and we disagree with it, if I'm on the Astros roster, I'm going to do the same thing, because what's the alternative? Are you going to come out and be like, yeah, we suck, like, we cheated, we probably should lose this year? I mean, it's just, to be fair, like, you can't come out and just give up or concede that. You've got to come out and say, like, you almost have to have an attitude and be defensive about it just to keep your head up and still try to keep in the running. So I don't know. Obviously, we don't like it, but that's what I get to.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, because if they would have lost game 3, or you're saying the Astros needed to put away. I gotcha. So the Astros needed to put the A's away to have the best chance to sweep. Okay, well, that is interesting too, because the A's had a much better record during the year than the Astros. So the A's are definitely to me, the better team, at least for this season.
Yeah. So I don't know. I get why they take that attitude. Oh, that's a good point.
Huh.
I think it goes to game 5 too.
I want to see an A's Rays ALCS, and I want to see a Padres. I would take either the Marlins or the Braves, but it'd be really funny to see the Marlins.
Like, all the big name teams just get dropped.
Yeah. I put out a tweet the other day and I said, which would be more 2020? The Astros winning the World Series or the Marlins winning the World Series? And I think the Marlins are winning the poll right now.
I don't think I saw that. I'll have to vote on it. I feel like the Marlins would be a crazier thing to happen, but 2020
they were
isn't
the worst team in the league last year.
Yeah, but 2020 isn't a crazy year. It's like a terrible year. So if you look at, like, the most 2020 thing to happen being a negative, bad thing, I'd probably have to vote Astros. I'm gonna go to your Twitter and vote Astros.
Do it. So then, also just talking, the Rays beat the Yankees today, so the Rays are up 2-1 in that series. Which, yeah, Padres A's would be a really fun series. Honestly, the way
they'll make it past this,
the way the Padres are, I think most people would just want to see the Padres. The league would really love the Padres to go far, just because it's that much more time to put the big names in the spotlight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The upcoming names being Tatis, I guess is the main one. But so Rays Yankees, the Rays are up 2-1. The Dodgers they're winning right now against the Padres, correct?
Yeah, it was 4-2 last I saw.
Okay. And the Dodgers are up currently 1-0 in the series.
Yep.
And then the Braves are up 2-0 against the Marlins. And there's been some fun plunking of Ronald Acuna.
Yeah.
And some stories there. So it's also super strange for me to watch. I watched some highlights from the Marlins Braves game, and it was just so weird to see them playing in Minute Maid Park where the Astros play.
Mm-hmm.
It's very bizarre. But
yeah.
All right, we have a lot to get to, so I just want to keep moving on here. College football. Notre Dame is finally going to play a game this weekend. Because 2 weekends ago they had to cancel or postpone due to COVID. Last week was their bye week. This week, Notre Dame all of a sudden finds themselves ranked 5th overall in the country.
Maybe we should just keep not playing and see what happens. It's working pretty well, yeah.
And Florida State, who is unranked but is getting better by the year, is coming to Notre Dame to play. So I'm definitely looking forward to watching that this weekend. I anticipate Notre Dame to win, but the biggest question will be with 2 weeks off, will you did get healthier, but did you also get rustier? Because game 1 against Duke, they really did not look very good. And game 2, they looked very sharp. And so part of that's the opponent, but are you going to be able to keep being sharp, or are you going to look like you missed half a month?
Yeah.
Because also this was pointed out in a Notre Dame podcast I was listening to. It's not like during these 2 weeks they were practicing and stuff because they were in COVID protocols. They were all quarantined. So what were you going to say?
Yeah, I think they're definitely legit questions as far as how good the team's going to look, but I don't think it's a question at all as far as if you win the game. I think if you're playing one of the better ACT teams like Miami, obviously Clemson, or maybe even North Carolina, I don't know what I think about them yet, but man, Florida State sucks this year. They were losing at halftime
to Jacksonville State.
Jacksonville State, and it's not even Jacksonville, Florida. I think that's in Alabama.
And it's also not Jackson State.
No,
where Walter Payton went. Yeah.
Jacksonville State. Yeah. The Jacksonville State College for the Blind. Yeah, it's just some random little school. Florida State is bad. And they're the kind of bad where it's not just like, okay, it's clearly that because they don't have enough talent or something. It's just the culture and the coaching. Like, I don't know what's to think about how, I think we've even talked about this on Frustration Nation before, like how quickly they fell from like a decade ago with Jameis Winston, not even a decade, being like national championship level team to this. They are not a good team. So I think Notre Dame wins easily this week, but those will be things to watch for as far as how rusty the team looks and how efficient they are.
It's the curse of the crab legs.
There you go.
State, yeah. The other matchup, I wrote down also the other ranked versus ranked matchups that we have. So the most notable one, and which is the primetime game on Saturday, is Miami at Clemson. Miami's number 7. Clemson's obviously number 1.
I can't wait for this game.
Yeah, this will be interesting. So, what are your thoughts on this game?
The question is just going to be like, I haven't really watched Clemson much, but I just know, I mean, Lawrence is having another good year. I mean, he's going to be probably the first overall pick for a reason.
Yep.
Obviously, they're a good team, but I don't know yet if they're as good as they were last year or if they're an unbeatable team. I mean, I don't know if anybody's unbeatable with this being a weird year. Practices and things like that being different, off season being different. So this is going to be a big test as far as, like, in my mind, it's been for so long just a given that Clemson is going to be undefeated and go to the playoff.
I know it's like a foregone conclusion.
So yeah,
I feel like the past few years it's been like, all right, so Alabama and Clemson and Ohio State will be in the playoffs. Who's the 4th team?
And it's always Oklahoma.
It's usually Oklahoma,
or maybe Notre Dame or something. Yeah.
Which, real quick, moving on to that matchup. So you have number 22 Texas at unranked Oklahoma, in what is widely, isn't it the Red River Showdown is what it's known
Shootout.
as?
Yeah, these teams are both garbage. Yeah.
This year it was all about like, wasn't it like supposed to be like Texas's big year or something?
Yeah, every year Texas is back, and then every year Texas is instead an embarrassment. It's like
not quite
they
as much
hate,
as the Sooner schooner falling over in the middle of the football field.
That was a perfect metaphor for their trajectory. Yeah. And the Big 12, man, they hate playing defense. Like they're like allergic to defense in the Big 12. Like it offends them to put any sort of defense or scheme on the field. Just so bad. The problem for Oklahoma is like they've been good despite bad defenses because they've had Heisman level quarterback play for like 6 years in a row.
Right.
Going from
Baker,
you had Baker
and
then Hurts, who was like maybe a step down but still really good Heisman conversation. So maybe Rattler will be that level in a year or two, but it's his first year and he's not there yet. And you're really seeing a lot of the holes in that team. And I think people are just tired of Oklahoma. Like, not that they didn't deserve to go to the playoffs any of those past few years, but people are tired of Oklahoma going into the playoff as like that fourth team who's a clear step down and then just getting blown out every year.
I get very annoyed about the Oklahoma thing because people there are people like legitimate ESPN analysts who have stated before that they feel strongly that Notre Dame should be removed from the playoff picture totally. Like Notre Dame should not even be allowed to make the playoff because they do not play the 13th game. And more so, this guy, I don't remember his name. I think it was Feinbaum. He stated he felt after Notre Dame lost to Clemson like 30-3 or whatever it was. I don't remember. It was a blowout, but he was like, Notre Dame should not be allowed back in the college playoffs ever. And it's just like, and the Sooners have gotten blown out in like 2 or 3 playoffs in a row, and yet here they still are. So I know people. I know Notre Dame is like the only team that I cheer for that's like the Yankees, where pretty much unless you're a fan of them, you hate them. But it frustrates me the love that Oklahoma gets for all the. I don't know. Definitely, I feel like Notre Dame and Oklahoma are at least on the same level. Yeah. Like in the past few years, and Notre Dame's clearly at this point through only 2 games on a better level than Oklahoma. So,
and you talk about not having that data point. Well, how much does a data point really mean when you play in a terrible Big 12 conference and your extra data point is against some joke of a championship game? Like,
right.
Yeah, I don't know.
And you lose to Iowa State or Kansas State or
there's no question this year they shouldn't be in the championship,
right?
Or in the playoff. I mean, so yeah, it'll be interesting. Texas probably wins this game, and then they're going to come out and say we're back again, and just because it's a rivalry game. But Texas isn't any good either.
Or Oklahoma will.
Yeah, and say bounce back, Heisman quarterback again.
Tune in to tomorrow's Frustration Nation for our official score predictions for all these games. Then lastly, NFL, I just wanted to touch on games that I'm looking forward to. So obviously tomorrow is Bears, Buccaneers.
Yep.
I think that game will just be I think that game would be interesting anyway. And it's a step up from last Thursday's football game, which was the Jets and the Broncos. Well, that was an entertaining game, actually. But
I actually really enjoyed watching that game, partly because I bet on it and I was on the right side. I bet the over, but like 2 bad teams.
You hit the over almost by halftime.
I know, right? Yeah. Well, that's my whole thing is like 2 bad teams. Everyone said, no, the under. It was a super low under. It was like 42 points. Everyone would say, oh, both offenses suck. Bet the under. I was like, well, both defenses are also bad. You're probably going to have a lot of short fields, a lot of like,
right.
Yeah. So, which was right. So it was entertaining though.
So I'm looking forward to Bears, Buccaneers, Buffalo at Tennessee. I think is a really good game if it gets played. So I'm looking forward to that one. Las Vegas at Kansas City, also a really good game if it gets played because there's a Vegas player that tested positive, and there's all the pictures of Stephon Gilmore basically making out with Pat Mahomes after the game. So we don't know if Pat Mahomes
was what, like he came out and said that was a lapse of judgment or something. You
Who
know, like
did?
Mahomes.
That he kissed Stephon Gilmore?
Yeah, it sounded like the Bill
He made out with
Clinton,
him?
yeah, confession or something. He was like,
I did not have
I did not
French
hug
kissing
that.
with Stephon Gilmore.
So yeah, just and
Nice.
I mean, people had that conversation last week, right? Like Cam Newton's out. I bet if it was Patrick Mahomes, they would have postponed the game or something. You know,
Right.
like it'll be interesting. Obviously, you don't hope he does, but if he does test positive, how's the league handle that? Because obviously he's kind of the face of the league right now. So, yeah.
The other matchups that intrigued me were, I felt like Indianapolis at Cleveland could be interesting just because Cleveland put up 49 points last week against Dallas, and Indianapolis has a good defense. So it'd be interesting to see what that looks like. That's really about all I have to say about that matchup.
Good matchup. Yep.
And then the one I think that is going to be an underrated matchup this week is going to be the Jaguars at Houston. Now, that doesn't sound interesting because you have Jacksonville they're 1-3, right? And then Houston who's 0-4. It's like, why would I want to watch that? Well, don't forget Bill O'Brien was fired this week. And so I don't even know who is filling in for coach or GM. But
I think it's probably just like an offensive coordinator is the interim or something.
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't looked.
But how will Houston respond with a new coach? So that's what I'm interested to see.
Watch them go on a winning streak. That'd be funny.
they end up 12-4.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my biggest thing, people were talking about the Texans trying to get Dabo Swinney to be their new head coach. I don't know. I don't see him leaving Clemson.
No,
he's got a pretty good gig there.
Man, that would be interesting.
It would be,
because you think about like some coaches just don't translate to the NFL. Like Nick Saban, one of the best college coaches of all time at Miami, just not good. I don't know.
What I'm more nervous about actually is Eric Bieniemy, who's the OC in Kansas City, getting the job, because there'd be nothing more painful as a Bears fan than for both the Texans with Watson and Kansas City with Mahomes to both have a successfully run offense that's supposed to be the same as Matt Nagy's, because they're all from the Andy Reid system. But it's
think about that.
I know. I have.
Oh yeah.
A lot. Yes.
Huh.
Oh, we'll see. We'll see. I hope they hire like Hugh Jackson. Remember him?
Freddie Kitchens.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Jason Garrett.
Yeah, right.
Returns to Texas.
I hope they hire Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn.
Oh, there you go.
It'd be amazing.
There you go. Or they could hire Lovie Smith. Actually, I really liked him on the Bears. I
like him with Illinois, the Santa Claus beard version of Lovie Smith. Yeah. Huh.
All right. Well, we've talked a lot this episode, but have yet to plug anything. So that's the only reason we do these shows anyways, so you guys can hear about the other stuff we want to talk about and sell you on. So I'm just
the whole thing is just one big commercial.
I'm just being transparent. Okay. So I record in a garage because it's the only space my family has left.
Family sleeping in the car behind me.
Yeah. Shane records in a basement because his family lives down there, because they're being hunted down by loan sharks for very poor financial decisions, and the basement's the safest place that they won't get shot up with. So
True.
Basically we need your help, and one way you can help is
my kids need to eat.
So one place you can help is on Fanatics. So we have a deal with Fanatics. If you go to shootyourshotsports.com/frustration nation and follow the link there, you can buy stuff on Fanatics through that link. And what happens when you do that is we get a little bit of the profits, and you get a little discount. So that works out nicely. You can also go check out the shop.shootyourshotsports.com to see all our merch. And special note, it is October, so you get to go, if you go now and buy any of the pink ribbon related gear, including the one we made about things that we hate, 100% of all those proceeds are going towards breast cancer research and awareness. So you can definitely buy some merch there. There's a lot of other cool merch there as well. So please go check all of that out. Just some other quick plugs while we're plugging stuff. MJ wanted to know where we can be found on Twitter, and it's a great question. I can be found at KEGeorge94. Man Michigan Hat can be found at Michigan Hat. Our show, Frustration Nation, is found at Real FN Podcast. And I actually made a Twitter. I haven't really pushed it out very much yet, but I have made a Twitter for DadBod Central, and it's just at dad_bod_central. So you can check all of that out there. And the last thing I'll plug, just as a shameless plug, I've started work on a new podcast that is unfortunately not part of Shoot Your Shot Sports, but it is covering the Bears, and it's just called Full Press Bears Podcast. So you can go check that out everywhere you can get podcasts to hear my breakdown of the Bears. All right, let's take a break from all this and do some dad jokes.
Nice. Okay, I'll start with my joke, which I have to kind of think how I want to phrase this because it's not even like a conventional joke. So, okay, I just thought you'd like to know a slice of apple pie, right? In Jamaica, I just found out it costs $2.50, but in the Bahamas, it costs $3. So do you know what that's called?
Wait,
the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Got him!
I didn't really know how I was gonna like structure that into a joke. I just
worked out.
Of a pun, I guess. So
you presented me with a math problem, and I was dumbfounded. All right. Well, mine is, I'll be honest, mine's a little bit of a departure from a dad joke. It's just one of my all-time favorite jokes. I think it still falls in the dad category, so I'm going to go ahead and tell it.
Well, Dad's saying it, so yeah.
True. All right, so once upon a time, there was a perfect little girl. All right? And this perfect little girl had a perfect little family, and she went to a perfect little school. Before school, she'd wake up and have a perfect little breakfast in her perfect little outfit. And she would go to her perfect little school, sit at her perfect little desk and she'd hang out with her perfect little friends all the time. She'd have a perfect little lunch with her at the perfect little cafeteria at this perfect little school. And so one day after her perfect little school was out, the bell had rung. She was walking home and she saw the perfect little puppy across the street. And she said, this puppy would be, what do you think she said?
Perfect.
Perfect. This perfect little puppy could sleep with me in my perfect little bed. It could have perfect little breakfast with me in the morning. We could go to perfect little school together and be with my perfect little friends. It'd be perfect. And so she ran across the street to get her perfect little puppy and got hit by a truck. And the moral of the story is, look both ways before crossing the street.
Got him!
Wait, I don't get it. That's just like,
that's the joke. It subverts expectation.
What a perfect joke.
Yeah, perfect little joke. All right, MJ, you've turned into a heckler now. You can go away.
It's funny. So that's been your go-to for a while.
Apparently, MJ remembers it.
That's kind of like an anti-joke. Like there's kind of like a category of jokes where it's like, yeah, you just flip it at the end. It doesn't make any sense. You know? That's funny. I
had a joke. I was the type of person that had joke books as a kid.
Yeah.
And I had this one that was called Jokelopedia. And I remember reading that joke. And I remember actually like laughing out loud reading that joke because I didn't expect that ending either. Anyway,
it's funny.
All right, well, because of time, I say we save our old man stories for next week.
Yep.
Or actually, that's the other news real quick, everybody. We are going to be changing this show just for our scheduling purposes and for the quality of both Frustration Nation and this. We're going to start doing this every other week. So in 2 weeks will be the next Dad Bod Central at 9 o'clock Central Time.
Yep.
All right. Fit or fat. I'm going to start because I'm excited about this. Our gym finally reopened, and first of all, it's not as annoying as maybe I was worried it was going to be. Like, I was worried they're going to be like, every time you're going from machine to machine or whatever, you got to put your mask on. And it's really not that. Like, once you're in the fitness room, you can pretty much have your mask off.
Nice.
If you feel comfortable. And everybody also, everybody's doing a really good job that I've been seeing of wiping everything down when they're done and before they start. And so that's been really helpful too. Anyway, it's been so refreshing to get back there because the gym that we have used before, this is a different gym that we're at now. The gym we had used before didn't open until 6. This one opens at 5:30. And it's just been like Monday. It was one of those days where it was like 30 degrees outside. It was freezing cold, but there was something about getting up, driving at 5:15 in the morning to get to the gym and working out and then walking outside, and there's still frost on the grass and it being crisp and cool. There's something so refreshing about that.
Yeah.
And the machines at this gym actually work as opposed to the previous gym we've been at. And so today I actually ventured out and tried a new machine. I'm sure you've either used it or seen it before. I have no idea even what it's called, but it's one where you have like shoulder straps with handles.
Oh, and you squat?
No. Well, kind of.
Okay.
You have one setting where you start back like this and you move forward and it works your abs. You're like basically doing like upright crunches, but there's weights that like the pulley weight things.
Yeah.
And then the other setting on it is you can push it so that you start down in the crunch position and then you go back and you work out your back.
Lower back exercise.
Yeah.
I haven't done one of those before. That's cool.
Yeah. I spent longer than I wanted to reading the instructions closely so I understood because
that's
I
cool.
didn't want to hurt myself. But that one was really good because I hate core exercises. And
They're
this
just
one
so like boring to do. And
this one I didn't mind at all. So I'm really happy to have at least one that I'm like could look forward to doing.
Cool.
So that's my fit or fat.
Peanut. Yeah, we'll turn this into like I'm thinking like a dance fitness show.
Ooh, like Zumba?
Yeah, like we'll wear like headbands, just like 80s
and
outfits.
Leggings.
Yeah. Have like those like ankle weights on. Yeah. So yeah. Come on.
We could have a spin class.
There you go. Yeah. I've always thought that'd be fun. I've never done one, but
what so all right, everyone, bike in place.
Or what would be cool, I think, is like the Pelotons where it's like you race other people and stuff.
Do you race other people in that?
Mm-hmm.
We actually at this gym, we have this one bike machine where it has a screen and it looks like a racing video game, essentially. And you have a biker who's supposed to be your pacer and you just go. The one thing I hate about it is I wish they made it more like Tony Hawk Pro Skater where
you could grind on the tricks and stuff.
No, not so much that. Because in this, if you ever run into another person, you just like go through them.
Oh,
I really wish you could actually knock them over and just have a skid of blood on the ground because that'd make it that much more.
When you hit theirs, like their bike tips you off or something.
Yeah. And
that'd be sweet.
A skid of blood on the ground. Yeah.
Your bike like electrocutes you when somebody passes you. Yeah, I'm just so competitive that anything where you're like actually racing against other people and stuff, it's just more fun. So yeah, good. So mine this week, I'd say more fit than last week. So I mentioned how I was going to start the keto diet, which I've been doing. Yes. I had a couple meals that were unplanned, not keto meals, because I was like on the road.
How dare you?
Or things, right? No dedication. So kind of my thought has been like, I'm going to stick to keto unless there's situations that are out of my control. Well, like technically I could just not eat, but like if I'm out with other people for work stuff or things like that, like I'll just try to make the best decisions I can, but still do like not be as strict in situations like that. Or like my sister's wedding is this coming weekend. So like, I'm not going to refuse to eat anything with sauce on it or something, like I'm not going to be like strict to the point where it affects
Sister the bride and be like, how many carbs are in
right. Could you go get the chef, please? So I kind of decided, because I'm not right at this point, my concern isn't like no carbs, trying to get into ketosis, like all the other stuff that comes with no carbs. I'm just trying to limit calories, honestly. And so trying to eat less breads and stuff, really just, even if it was like for lunches or like one meal a day,
cutting out anything that you can without
just extra stuff that I don't need to, so and what I'm going to try to do is, like, yesterday I was keto the whole day. Like, I'll try to have days where I'm more strict. So
it just so happens that a lot of the things that I feel like, especially for guys, that are easy to cut out are carb related. Like when you think about bread, like if I'm having a burger, I'd like to have the bun so I can hold everything together. But I really want the burger and the toppings on the burger, like the vegetables that go with it. And for me, it's mustard. Like
a lettuce wrap to me is just very close to as good as a regular burger,
Well, let's not slander burgers now. But I mean,
it's more comparable than, like,
you wouldn't take a nice toasted brioche bun or a pretzel bun.
It's better than like trying to have pizza without bread or something, like.
Well, yeah.
The bread
actually
is less essential to a burger.
Do you want
other
a
things.
keto option for that?
Is like cauliflower?
Well, you could do that.
I guess I don't know if that's keto, actually.
You could do that. A lot of the cauliflower crusts are good, except that they're better than normal crust, but they do mix in like other things that are carby to help it stick together. My recommendation is this one. There is still pizza sauce involved, but Aaron and I have made this several times before, especially when we were trying to do keto at one point. So take however many chicken breasts your family would eat and butterfly them. So cut them in half long way so they're thin, and you'd want to like pound them down if you can so they're flatter. And then in a 9x13 pan, you'll put down the chicken breasts, and you season the chicken breasts with like garlic and onion powder and like oregano, I think. And then you put pizza sauce over these chicken breasts, and then on top of the chicken breasts, then you put the toppings you would want on your pizza. So pepperoni, sausage, if you wanted to do like peppers and mushrooms
and stuff,
do it however you would do a normal pizza. Top it with your mozzarella cheese and cook it in the oven. So then basically the chicken breast serves as your crust,
your base or whatever. That's a good idea. And obviously, like, the thing that's appealing about doing, even if it's not strict keto, like a keto as like a template, or what I try to do, is because I'm trying to reduce calories but still keep protein high. So something like that'd be good. Obviously, with the chicken, replacing a carb with a protein is stuff like that. I'll have to think about that. So so it's been good. Pretty solid workouts this week, which, I mean, it's been about the same in the gym as normal for me, but if I can also improve my diet, I'll see much better progress with the same gym routine I've been doing. So cool. It's been good.
Well, we teased it at the beginning, but before we conclude, we just wanted to say, so Michigan Hat, what was that big announcement you had?
My big announcement is that my sister, this is an improvised announcement in case that wasn't clear at the beginning. I was told,
I just threw it on him at the last moment. Like, hey, you have a big announcement. Come up with
a big announcement. And this was Richie, who's producing right now. Just put it up on the promo and stuff. So now I'm pressured to come up with an announcement. So I guess what I'll use as my announcement is my sister's getting married this weekend on Saturday. So congratulations to Grace and
What's
Aaron.
Her name? Yeah, and where's the address so we can send cards and money and gifts?
I'm not sure about the address, actually. I'll have to look.
What a good brother. Well, thanks for listening to this week's Dad Bod Central. Please go check out our show, Frustration Nation, here on the Shoot Your Shot Sports Network and everywhere you can get podcasts on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Shoot us an email at frustratioonnation@shootyourshotsports.com. Tweet us at Real FN Podcast, at dad_bod_central, at KE George94, at just Michigan Hat. Before we leave, though, we want to give you that piece of fatherly advice we always like to leave you with, and that is to go find your dad, give him a hug, tell him you love him, but don't you ever forget you call us daddy. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you all in 2 weeks, same time, same place. Deuces.